All right, so let's get started with this. All right, let's get started with this.
However, I do not agree with both parties when it comes to immigration. I'm pro-Palestine too, as well. However, whoever was going to be the next president of this country, regardless of how we all feel, we're going to forever fund war. We're going to forever fund all these things. And the thing that really bothers me about Trump is not the fact that he can say whatever he wants. It's the fact that he can get away with it. And that's not something I approve of. That's not something I would want anybody to look up and be like, oh, yeah, that's my president right there. I'll be ashamed. Now, for Kamala, I do not agree how her upcoming was. It was very shady. But however, I give credit when credit is due. And damn, that lady worked hard to get there.
Okay.
That's how I say it.
So okay. Got it. Now, a lot of you guys are, kind of going off of, I'll be real, like you guys are being upfront. I'll be upfront too. A lot of you guys have some of the same views as Nick when it comes to this stuff. But I want to ask you guys a question. Is there anybody here that genuinely believes that Donald Trump is racist? And if you do, please raise your hand. Okay, so let's.
I'm Asian. All the comments he made during COVID, we all know. I'm sure the chat's going
Black jobs.
Okay, so Nick, is that a better topic? Would
My
you say?
African American.
Let's discuss this. Yeah, let's go free flowing from this.
Sure. Yeah, that's fair, I guess. Yeah, I mean, let's talk about Trump being racist. If anything, I don't think he's racist enough. That's my opinion. But I have a different definition of racism than you guys. Let's just be honest. Trump is in favor of mass immigration. Trump changed his policy in June and said that he wants to staple green cards to the diplomas of every foreign student that comes to America, whether it's a 2-year, 4-year, graduate degree, doesn't matter. All those green cards are coming from non-white countries. They're coming from Pakistan. They're coming from India. They're coming from China. If you are truly a racist and the thing that, people that are race conscious or white identitarian, what they deeply care about is the racial makeup of the country. The most stark thing that is going on in the history of the United States right now is that the country was 90% white. And within 10 years, it's going to be 50% white. That is a massive change with significant effects. Whether you think it's good, bad, neutral, it's a huge change. And it's happening all over the world. And where does...
I honestly don't think Trump is racist. I definitely think that he cares about winning. He cares about winning. So he says the thing he said. I think he cares about America. He cares about business as well. So now, if he says something that you may deem racist, it is what it is. I mean, his views are not necessary to be portrayed as racist. Like I said, it's to support America, support money, and support his ambition to win.
Trump stand on that issue? He is supporting the demographic transition, supporting a less white America. So, in that sense, I would also say, look at the people he surrounds himself with. Tim Scott from South Carolina, among others. If you looked at the RNC, the first day, it was like all black men. It was actually notable. Almost everybody that went up and spoke on the stage, which he specifically created the agenda. It's all black men. They gave a tribute at the very end to the Sikh god Waheguru, which I protested as a traditional Catholic. So, you could give like a ton of reasons. But I think he totally lacks prejudice. I'll give one other anecdote. I went to Mar-a-Lago with Kanye West a couple years ago, and Trump was nothing but nice, still has not disavowed him to this day. If anything, stood by him, even though he was canceled, and said he's a good guy, but misunderstood, but he has a good heart, which is how I see him. So I think that there's not a racist bone in his body, although sometimes I wish he was even a little bit more race conscious than he is. So that's what I would say.
That sounds great. We'll let everyone disagree. You can raise your hand. But first, Jazz, if you could, let's see your mic one more time. You still haven't spoke.
Does it work?
Yes, it works now. Thank you.
Okay, so Burnout, why do you think that Nick is wrong?
Just guys, raise your hand, and Burnout, raise your hand first.
I would like to ask him a question. Like, what is your definition of racism?
It's a good question. That's the important definition. I see myself as a racialist. I think that race is real. I think that we have to grapple with it. People are tribal. So I guess the working definition would be, race-based hatred. Does he hate people or have prejudice for people based on their race? Would be my
Okay. Hear
definition.
me out. The next question is, do you think your definition of racism applies universally to everyone, especially the people who are at the the hand of racism, like the oppressed or the oppressors? And do you think racism is an oppressive institution? Or do you just think, oh, racism is hating on people? Like,
Well,
what
the
do you think?
definition's totally subjective. I think it's a very ambiguous.
Poor man, what's going on, my brother? Thank you for joining.
Word. I mean, what does racism mean? Does it mean you believe that race is a determinative factor, or do you think that, like left-wing people do, I imagine you do, based on what you're saying, that race is, one of these categories that's used to oppress people? It's totally subjective, and that's why we have to meet on the definitions. But no, I don't believe. What exactly is the question? People disagree about what racism means. Absolutely.
Okay, universally, I would say racism is the institutionalized practice of putting a marginalized people down and keeping them down, whether it's thoughts, whether it's speech, whether it's being rejected from a job because of how you look, your skin color. So anything that has to do with your skin color and you being rejected or dejected or objectified or subjectified is the definition of racism to me. And I think that from multiple studies and just living real life, a lot of people will agree with that. So it's not as light as you're trying to make it seem. It's not that at all. And I would consider Donald Trump to sit under the umbrella of being racist, just because of how he moves, his policies, how he deals with people of the opposite race or anybody that is not similar to him.
Like who? Can you give an example?
Anyone. Look how he talks about Kamala. Look how he talks about the African American.
How he talks about Kamala? She's a political opponent. What is he supposed to do? Like love on her?
African American community. It's not from a place of understanding or relation. It's an outside observation from generalized views that are just stereotypical, really, because have you seen him really be in close contact with anyone who is actually someone who is a clear representation of being an African American person or a person of another race, where he can sit down and they'll be like cool and not have any type of controversy?
He literally just gave examples of that. What is wrong with her?
Yeah. Ben Carson was in his cabinet. Tim Scott was being considered for VP.
Listen to me. I'm sorry.
Well, let me add one other thing.
Real quick, Nick. Sorry,
yeah,
but Isaac, you were raising your hand for a while. I want to get to you, Isaac. What do you have to say to that? And tell me why you think Trump is a racist.
Yeah. So I think Nick is really good at verbalizing his points to make it seem like he really knows what he's talking about. But racism, the word is not subjective. It's the inherent superiority complex to another race. There's just this clear cut and dry. And I do believe Trump is a racist because he had a civil case, back in the day because he refused to rent to Black people in his properties. He called for the execution of the Central Park Five.
He's ruining my fucking shit. Banner.
He had the birther conspiracy. These are things that have been around for years, well-documented cases of racism. So I think the reason you're saying he's not racist is because you have a clear misunderstanding of what racism is. But your opinion is not shared by most of the world, especially people who face racism. Like, okay, a lot of conservatives like to talk about like white racism. So wouldn't you agree that white people are discriminated against because they're white? Or is that not happening?
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay,
yeah.
You believe in racism then, but only for your own people. So
I think that, again, what is the definition? If the definition of racism, as Burnout said, is this systematic oppression of a person based on race, then you would disagree. You would disagree that white people are discriminated against, right? if white
No,
people are
there's
oppressors?
individual racism. That's like a thought. You see somebody outside and
So,
well,
so
I
what is
hate
the
that
definition
person.
then? You're making the case that it's very clear cut and there's no ambiguity, but clearly
Can I
there's
interject?
disagreement on this panel between
Can I
you
interject?
and Burnout even.
Prejudice would be what the word you're looking for, not racism. Prejudice
Yeah,
would be the word you're
prejudice,
looking for.
discrimination. But when it comes to like racism is race-based discrimination and prejudice. There's individual racism. That's where somebody sees another person of another race and they, subconsciously do not like them. And there's institutional or systemic racism where there are foundations in place to keep people of color down. I think you're looking at it from a very narrow-minded lens, but I could show individual racism towards you, a white person. However, I can't show any institutional racism towards you because I'm not in that position of power to do that to you. You understand?
Yeah, I don't. Are we debating whether Trump is a racist, or are we debating whether the definition of racism is universal? Because I think
Well,
there's
in order
broad
to debate that,
disagreement.
we need to I feel
I
like you're
think we're
shifting the goalpost,
debating
though.
that Trump is
Well,
a racist.
that's the like I
considering the
said, I think you're more arguing whether
real
there's
quick,
an objective
Nick, she wanted-
definition. Let's just agree on what we're talking about. So your argument is Trump is discriminating on people on the basis of race, as in the case of Central Park 5 and the birther conspiracy. Is that right?
That would be correct, yes.
Okay. So, well, I mean, my pushback would be, having met the man and again, just seeing him with black people, would somebody that has racial hatred or discriminates or prejudice against black people appoint black people in his cabinet, pass the First Step Act, commute the sentences of many black felons who had a peaceful drug charge, and hang on one more thing, and secured the release of LeVar Ball, Kodak Black. I think there was one other rapper in Norway or Sweden who was released from prison. I mean, so I think when you put all that together, I don't think someone who is like a white supremacist would be interested in any of that.
Christine, let's Christine, raise her hand. What's your response to that?
Sorry, can I go, please?
Yeah, Christine, the Asian girl.
None of that was helpful to the black community in any way. None of those people are helpful to the black community in any type of way or fashion. He did that as a strategy. Of course, he's going to move strategically.
So by your thought, okay, a president helping out black people does not help the black community. What does Obama do? What has Obama done? What, Obamacare? Has that really made the black community, like, I don't know, succeed thanks to Obamacare? By your ideology, doing things that help black people doesn't really help the black community. Here's the thing. If you don't help yourself, there's nothing someone else can do that would even do much of a dent. This is the thing where, to be honest, I said this, right? I don't believe the government is necessarily helping anybody. Maybe besides the wealthy. Okay, so I don't care if it's Obama. I don't care if it's Clinton. I don't care if it's anybody. They're not drastically helping, I don't know, the poor to a bit of the middle class. So who you think, and that doesn't necessarily make the person racist. Okay? Because in all honesty, Obama did much of nothing. So does that make him racist? No. It's just that, in my honest opinion, one, I don't think the government is all that, they're not jumping to go so far to help anybody out. And two, I think it's not an easy thing to help any community out drastically. Okay, so I think your hand is tied, because to be honestly, what would Trump do? What could Trump do that would actually help the black community? What? I don't really. I mean, I would like to know, because I don't know, right?
The people who are those are fans or who pay attention to the people you named don't really think for themselves. They're very much sheep. And he's going to do anything for the black vote.
Christine.
We've seen that time and time again. We've seen that time from not even talking about Trump, from anybody.
Christine, you raise your hand. You had something?
Yes. I just wanted to say, I think there are levels to racism, okay? I know many of people. Well, I'm white, but I have black friends, so I'm not racist. Okay. But so him, like, calling the China virus and like things like that. So what is that? Is that like calling people slurs? Is it just like comedy? It's just funny. It's not racist.
Wasn't it just descriptive? I mean, the virus did come from China.
You're not wrong.
Well, seriously, you're not wrong. Well, then, really, it's like he just destroyed your argument. He just destroyed your point of view. He destroyed your worldview. And even that, I knew, right? I knew that as an Asian man. I knew that he wasn't necessarily attacking Asian people. At best, he was, or maybe at worst, he was attacking China, not Chinese people. He was attacking China. Now, if you have the idiots, right, the stupid, I don't know, rednecks or whatever, that are attacking Asian people because of, it's a Chinese virus, well, they're stupid. You can't blame idiots on Trump because people will be idiots regardless.
Okay.
I just want to put that out there. I agree he's not a KKK member.
Yeah,
he's not like a white supremacist, but yeah, like obviously some things he says, some people are going to conceive as problematic and racist. But yes, he can have black friends, but he can still be racist. But I would just argue
I'm more conservative than him on race. I'm far more conservative than him on race. And I view him authentically as someone who does not have racial prejudice. I mean, you got to consider he's a New Yorker. I mean, he grew up with Jews who are an ethnic minority. He grew up in a very diverse city. He did business with a lot of different kinds of people. And even with regard to China, he had a good relationship with the country of China. He respected their leaders. I mean, he said that when I was with him at the dinner, he said we had a great relationship, but we respected each other and so on. They had Mitch McConnell's wife, who is Chinese. She was a Secretary of Transportation, I believe. It was in the cabinet. So it was a diverse cabinet. It was a diverse White House. And you can argue, well, he's cynically doing these things to win the non-white vote. Well, if you argue that everything he does is in bad faith, you're sort of arguing that you know what's in his heart. All we can go by is the outward expression. What does he do? What does he say? Based on what he says and does not appear to be a racialist. Does not appear to be a racist.
Like a president has a duty to be president for all Americans. So of course he's going to be diplomatic when it comes to race. But I don't think that's a reflection of how he feels inside. The same way you're saying we can't go off of, because we don't know how he's feeling inside. You don't know how he's feeling inside either. So I do go by actions, and he has many racist actions in the past. But just because he wasn't, he was trying to get to the people of color's votes during his presidency. That's what a president is supposed to do. They're conditioned to reach out to as many people as possible. That doesn't mean he's not racist just because he's doing something that politicians are really good at doing, reaching out to people. That's my 2 cents.
Yeah, I don't know. I just, the thing is, when it comes to deeds and actions, that's the indicator. That's what we can look at. And, it's like you said, the ones that appear racist, you say, well, that's indicative he's racist. The ones that appear that he's not racist, they say, well, that's just dishonest. It's a lie. So it's kind of like you're picking and choosing the things that are guilty. Well, that's definitive. The things that prove he's not guilty, well, we can't, there's no credibility. We can't trust that. And I would just say, with regard to Trump altogether, I also don't even think it really matters that much. I mean, because if we're saying for the sake of argument, let's say he is just putting on this big display and big show, you say, well, that's his job to be diplomatic. Well, then was he not diplomatic? I mean, was he not? I mean, for example, something like with the birther conspiracy, I don't think there's anything necessarily racist about that. They didn't say that Obama wasn't born here because he was black. They said he wasn't born here because he didn't live in America for his childhood. And I think there are a lot of legitimate questions about where this guy even came from. He lived in Indonesia. His father was from Kenya. I mean, there's questions about Ted Cruz. He raised the same issue about Ted Cruz because he was born in Canada and wasn't born on the land. Ted Cruz, I mean, he's Cuban, but by all appearances, he's white. Does that make Trump a racist against Cubans? I think it's a legitimate question. With regard to the Central Park Five, they're guilty. let's just be honest.
That's
They got off, but they were guilty.
That's misinformation.
That is
That's
misinformation.
Disinformation, actually, if you ask me.
This is misinformation.
You look into the case.
A
It's just
whole
true.
parade about the one getting released because all of it was lies.
Yeah, they got let off, but they were all guilty.
I mean, the guy, you can't really think that the guy who recently murdered that Russian Ukrainian girl, he was let out of prison 16 times, 15 to 16 times. He was let out of prison multiple times. He didn't serve a long sentence. He didn't. So there are plenty of criminals that are left out or let out. So really, or plenty of hell, plenty of people thought O.J. Simpson did it. He didn't. He didn't serve any prison sentence. So doesn't necessarily. I mean, our justice system is not great, right?
Okay, what evidence do you have to back up that claim?
Yeah,
I don't want to do a debate about the Central Park 5.
Donald Trump, so you trust the judicial system?
If you look
I feel
into
like
it,
you're regurgitating things that you haven't really looked into.
If you look into it, you'll find they were guilty.
Okay, can you please just elaborate?
Okay,
I honestly want to hear.
No, please elaborate. I would like to
actual
know.
evidence to go with this because
I'm really not interested in debating the Central Park 5. If you want to say that's racism, I'll concede that, and we could say that's racist.
You just lied, and it's okay, but you got to be accountable.
Okay, let's move on to the next subject. I think that we covered. Hold on, you can hear correct? I think that we covered racism. Let's move back.
Covered racism. I mean, I don't really know that, but fine. I mean, he also said that he conceded to. To be honest, I would say this. One case of if it's I honestly don't know that the Central Park 5 thing like that well or barely at all. So one thing, it doesn't necessarily make him a racist. I mean, he could have just hated these people. I don't know. Whatever, right? I mean, I don't know it that much, so it is what it is. But you gotta, in my honest opinion, you gotta see a person throughout time. If you can only pick 2 instances, it's not really that great of an indicator, in my opinion. So it is what it is.